The lunchtime crowd at Maple Avenue Diner was a blur of motion, waitresses darting between tables, the faint hum of chatter, the clinking of plates and coffee cups. Sunlight poured through the wide glass windows, spilling golden warmth across the checker-tiled floor. And in the middle of all that noise and color sat a tiny girl with chestnut hair tied into 2 uneven braids. Her name was Ivy, and she couldn't hear a single sound. She was just 6 years old, yet her eyes carried the kind of silence that only those born deaf understand, a world without sound but filled with endless questions. She sat beside her mother, Grace, who was carefully scanning the menu while occasionally glancing at Ivy, making sure she was okay. Ivy traced shapes on the table with her fingers, humming softly to herself in a voice she couldn't hear. The diner was alive with the energy of a regular afternoon, but for Ivy, it was a different kind of music, the movement of lips, the rhythm of hands, the song of smiles. Across the room, a waitress named Hannah noticed the little girl. Hannah had been working double shifts for weeks to pay her bills, yet there was something about Ivy that made her pause. Maybe it was those curious eyes, or maybe it was the way Ivy studied everyone around her as if she was trying to read the world one gesture at a time. When Hannah approached their table, Grace smiled warmly and pointed to the menu for Ivy's meal, then gently signed to her daughter, "Pancakes." Ivy's face lit up instantly. When Hannah saw that, she hesitated, then slowly raised her hands and signed back a shaky but clear, "Thank you." It was simple, just 2 words, but Ivy froze, her eyes wide in disbelief. Her little mouth formed an excited "oh" as she gasped silently, then quickly signed back, "You know sign." Hannah smiled, nodding nervously, signing, a little. Ivy's laughter, though soundless, filled the space like sunlight. She signed again, "Thank you," before hugging her mother's arm, joy dancing in her eyes. At that exact moment, a man sitting at the next booth looked up from his laptop. He was dressed in a crisp navy suit, his silver watch gleaming under the light. His name was Marcus Bellamy, the CEO of Everkind Technologies, a company known for its humanitarian projects, but no one in that diner knew who he was. He had come there for a quiet lunch, away from the boardrooms and cameras. But as he watched the exchange between Ivy and Hannah, something stirred deep within him. Before we go deeper into this story, if you believe that kindness and small acts of love can change lives, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Light of Kindness. Your support helps more heartwarming stories like this one reach people who need them most. Marcus couldn't look away. He hadn't smiled much in months, his life had become a blur of deadlines, investor meetings, and corporate obligations. Yet watching the deaf little girl light up just because someone spoke her language, it pulled something long forgotten out of him. When Hannah returned with their order, Marcus called her over. He looked at her curiously. "Excuse me," he began softly. "That was sign language, right? Where did you learn it?" Hannah blinked, surprised. "Oh," she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Yes, sir. I learned it from my younger brother, Eli. He was born deaf too. I used to help him with homework when our parents couldn't afford special classes." She smiled faintly. "He passed away 2 years ago. But I guess I never stopped using what he taught me. It's my way of keeping him close." Marcus didn't respond right away. His gaze softened. "I see," he said finally, voice low. "That's beautiful." He watched her walk away to another table, and his thoughts drifted somewhere far away, back to a hospital room, a boy's hand going limp in his. Marcus's younger son, Oliver, had also been born deaf. He remembered how Oliver used to sign the word "Dad" with a smile that could shatter his heart. But after the accident that took his wife and son 5 years ago, Marcus had buried every memory, every emotion. He had stopped attending charity events, stopped talking about accessibility, stopped feeling. Until now. The sight of Ivy and Hannah had cracked something open inside him. He finished his lunch in silence, then quietly walked to the cashier. "Put that family's meal on my bill," he said. "And the waitresses too." The cashier blinked, nodding. "Of course, sir." But Marcus wasn't done. He scribbled a note on a napkin and handed it to Hannah before leaving. It read, "Meet me tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. at 45 Bridge Street. Please don't be afraid, it's about something good." Hannah stared at the note for a long moment, her heart racing. She thought it was a joke, or maybe some strange scam. But the handwriting looked sincere, and something about the man's eyes had seemed genuine. She decided to take a chance. The next morning, she arrived at the address. It was a tall glass building with the name Everkind Technologies emblazoned across the front. Inside, the receptionist greeted her warmly. "Mr. Bellamy is expecting you." When she stepped into his office, she felt out of place. This was another world. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, sleek furniture, the faint smell of fresh coffee and ambition. Marcus stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back. He turned and smiled gently. "Thank you for coming, Hannah." "I wasn't sure if I should," she admitted nervously. "I'm glad you did," Marcus said. "Yesterday, what you did, it wasn't just a kind gesture. It reminded me of something I lost." He walked closer. "You see, my son was deaf. I lost him years ago. Watching you and that little girl. I realized I've spent too long running from his memory. You reminded me of the goodness in people, the power of connection." Hannah's eyes softened. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly. He nodded. "You couldn't have known. But you gave me an idea." He paused, then smiled faintly. "I want to start a new project under my foundation. A free education program to teach sign language in schools, hospitals, and restaurants across the country. I want to call it the Eli and Oliver Initiative. And I want you to lead it." Hannah's jaw dropped. "Me? But, I'm just a waitress." Marcus shook his head. "No. You're someone who understands what this means. You speak from the heart. That's what the world needs." Tears filled Hannah's eyes as she whispered, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Marcus said softly. That was the beginning of something extraordinary. Over the next few months, Hannah became the face of the new initiative. News outlets began covering her story, the waitress who helped build a movement for inclusion and kindness. Schools began offering sign language as a subject. Cafes and diners across the city hung signs that read, "We speak with our hands." And everywhere she went, Hannah thought of her brother Eli, smiling from somewhere beyond. Meanwhile, Grace and Ivy returned to that same diner one morning. The staff had changed, new faces filled the space. But this time, Ivy noticed a new sign on the wall that said, "We welcome everyone, in every language." Beneath it, a smaller line read, "Inspired by a little girl's thank you." Grace felt tears sting her eyes. "That's you, sweetheart," she whispered, touching Ivy's cheek. Ivy smiled wide, signing, "Because kindness grows." That afternoon, as they were about to leave, Marcus himself walked in. He recognized Ivy immediately and knelt down beside her. "Hi there," he said gently, speaking and signing at the same time. "Do you remember me?" Ivy giggled, nodding. "The men from the diner," she signed. Marcus smiled, his heart swelling. "Yes. You helped me remember something very important." "Thank you, Ivy." Grace looked at him curiously. "You're Mr. Bellamy, aren't you? The one who started the program?" He nodded. "Your daughter's thank you changed my life." "You both did." Grace covered her mouth, her eyes glistening. I don't know what to say." "Just keep sharing kindness," Marcus said softly. "That's how the world heals." The sunlight streamed through the windows again, painting everything gold, the same diner, the same little girl, but a world forever changed by a small act of compassion. Ivy reached out her tiny hands and signed once more, "Thank you." Marcus smiled back, returning the sign with trembling fingers. For the first time in years, he felt peace. Somewhere in that gesture, he could almost feel his son's presence, like a whisper saying, "It's okay, Dad. You can smile again." And in that moment, the diner didn't feel like a place filled with strangers. It felt like a place where hearts spoke louder than words. If this story touched your heart today, if it reminded you that even the smallest kindness can create ripples of change, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Light of Kindness. Let's spread love and hope together, one story at a time.